on Friday morning. And we'll see some heavy pulses of rain across parts of Wales into southeastern areas. That rain could linger into the weekend. There is some uncertainty on that, but wherever you are, it is expected to get colder once again throughout the weekend. Bye-bye.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
It's the final week to see how you can enjoy Christmas on us. First, we'll give you an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash. Then we'll give you a further £10,000 cash to spend on all your Christmas presents, even the tree. Christmas lunch, that's on us too, with £1,000 in shopping vouchers to spend at your favourite supermarket. Finally, a GB News Christmas goodie bag. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB 17 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 28th of November. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
Practice Trump made a good start. No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, good evening. It's me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, on State of the Nation tonight.
It tells you everything you need to know about her grip on the Treasury. She's making the UK a shambolic laughingstock to international investors, and if she doesn't resign for breaking her promises, she should sure as hell go for this. Yeah.
Wow, Kemi was magnificent. Today, the Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, delivered the most shambolic budget in British history. After weeks of leaked announcements and Labour Party infighting, today the biggest blunder of all when the Office for Budget Responsibility leaked the budget before the Chancellor's statement, proving that it's not just a government with bad policies, it's one that's incapable of governing. Also tonight.
Standing up for farming until there are changes.
But we, the people, are the power, aren't we? You know, if we don't stand up now, we're not going to have an open house chance.
Britain's farmers are under attack, returning to the streets of Westminster to warn that Labour's inheritance tax plans could push family farms to destitution. Will the government's clash with Britain's farmers ever end? Plus...
I am introducing the high value council tax surcharge in England for properties worth more than £2 million.
The Chancellor's tax raid continues in the form of a surcharge on homes worth over £2 million. With concerns of valuation disputes and pressure on landlords, I'm joined by one of Britain's foremost property experts to learn how much damage capital taxes can do. And
6, 7. This younger generation.
the Prime Minister may have earned himself a detention slip this week during a visit to a school. Sir Keir Starmer joined pupils in a viral 6-7 gesture. Is it time politicians stop trying to be down with the kids? State of the Nation starts now. I'll also be joined by my most preternaturally perspicacious panel, the Reform MP for Runcorn-Helsby, Sarah Pochin, and the political consultant and former Labour candidate, Kevin Craig. As always, let me know what you think, mailmog@gbnews.com. But now it's your favourite time of the day, the News Bulletin with Sam Francis.
Jacob, thank you, and a very good evening to you. Well, we will, of course, be covering the details on the budget later in this hour. First, though, let's just bring you some breaking news that we're hearing from United States. Just a few blocks from the White House, a major police response is underway after a shooting involving what local media there are saying are 2 uniformed military personnel, at this stage believed to be National Guardsmen. You can see there the cordon and heavy police presence taking place following that shooting. Emergency services confirming 3 victims at this stage have been rushed to hospital, though at this stage we don't yet know their conditions or indeed whether the wounded taken to hospital include the service members who are reported to have been involved. Police still flooding the area and roads sealed off. Our camera crew on the scene, one of the first in attendance following that shooting. And also just the latest lines coming to us from the Reuters news agency that the White House is now in lockdown. The press secretary confirming that in the last few minutes, and the White House spokesperson saying that Donald Trump, president, has been briefed on that shooting of, at this stage, what is believed to be 2 National Guard members. It's worth noting, in fact, that the incident unfolded right next to the Eisenhower Executive Office building. That is part of the White House complex where a number of senior staff work. So, as I say, there is a significant police and emergency service presence following that shooting just a few blocks from the White House. A major police presence underway following that shooting. Plenty more on that as we get it. Returning, though, to news here at home, and Chancellor Rachel Reeves has delivered her budget after its key details were leaked early in an unprecedented pre-budget blunder. The Office for Budget Responsibility accidentally published its forecasts 40 minutes before the Chancellor stood up in the Commons, prompting an immediate apology and a formal investigation. The plans themselves, well, they are sweeping. Income tax and national insurance thresholds frozen until 2031. New annual charges on homes worth over £2 million and £5 million. A mileage duty for electric vehicles and pension tax changes above £2,000. And a cap on cash ISAs. And Rachel Reeves also confirmed the 2-child benefit cap will be scrapped from next year, warning that growth forecasts have been downgraded. But the political reaction was instant and certainly fierce. Here's what Conservative leader Kemi Badenoch had to say in reaction to that OBR leak.
Nobody wants this budget, Mr. Speaker. With resignations, hostile briefings and leaks galore, even just in the last 10 minutes, an unprecedented leak of the OBR analysis. Unbelievable. Mr. Speaker, these leaks have been so serious that even the former chief economist of the Bank of England has said, and I quote, that Labour's fiscal fandango is the single biggest reason why growth has flatlined. Does the Prime Minister agree with Andy Haldane, and does he have an explanation for this complete shambles?
Well, in her response, Rachel Reeves said the early publication was deeply disappointing and a serious error on OBR's part.
This is deeply disappointing and a serious error on their part. The Office for Budget Responsibility have already made a statement taking full responsibility for their breach. Our net financial debt will be lower at the end of the forecast than it is today, And I will more than double the headroom against our stability rule to £21.7 billion. These are my choices. Not austerity, not borrowing, not turning a blind eye to unfairness. My choices are a budget for fair taxes, strong public services and a stable economy.
A stark warning also tonight from the budget watchdog. The asylum system, they say, could face £1 billion overspend by 2028. Ministers had promised to end the use of hotels and cut asylum spending by £1.1 billion. But the OBR says if costs stay at current levels, the system could blow £1 billion hole in the budget within 4 years. It comes as small boat arrivals are up 19% and asylum seekers in supported accommodation are up 8% on last year. And just before I hand you back to Jacob, an update on the situation in Hong Kong. Reports now that police there have arrested 3 men in connection with the fire on suspicion of manslaughter, and will be providing details later today. That is after that massive fire ripped through the multiple high-rise residential blocks in Hong Kong, with the death toll now rising to at least 36. More than 700 firefighters have been battling the level 5 blaze. That is Hong Kong's most serious. Dozens of fire engines still at the scene, and the government has already paid tribute to at least one firefighter, a 37-year-old who sadly died tackling the flames. We also know of at least 279 people still missing, with fears that some residents may be trapped inside. Those are the headlines on a very busy breaking news evening. Now I'll hand you straight back to State of the Nation.
Welcome back to Save the Nation. Today, the Chancellor Rachel Reeves delivered the most shambolic budget in British history. Weeks of leaks had already removed any element of surprise from today's announcements. Every newspaper, website and gossip column had already told us what was coming. Every form of tax rise seems to have been suggested by the Treasury in the run-up to the budget. So many policy kites were flown that their strings entangled one another, so that St James's Park was hardly safe for the pelicans. Was income tax going to rise, or a mansion tax, an exit tax for non-doms, a sugar tax, an electric car tax, more fuel duty, changes to inheritance tax, an increase in capital gains tax? Proposals veritably flew out of the mouths of gossiping Downing Street insiders, creating uncertainty and, as Aldi Handane said, subduing economic activity. Yet the worst leak was on budget day itself. In a contemptible disregard for Parliament and procedure, at midday we witnessed the biggest blunder of all. The Office for Budget Responsibility, the irresponsible Office for Budget Responsibility, published its economic and fiscal outlook half an hour before the Chancellor's statement, revealing detailed forecasts and the budget's fiscal measures, prompting widespread coverage and an immediate apology. Within minutes of the OBR's mistake, live news outlets reported the leaked budget, including frozen personal tax thresholds to 2030-31, a cash ISA cut, the mansion tax changes, the two-child benefit cap being removed, and new taxes on savings, pensions and gambling. This led to immediate reactions from markets and MPs during Prime Minister's questions before the Chancellor's speech. Here is Kemi Badenoch's inspired response.
An unprecedented leak of the OBR analysis. Mr. Speaker, these leaks have been so serious that even the former chief economist of the Bank of England has said, and I quote, that Labour's fiscal fandango is the single biggest reason why growth has flatlined.
The fandango. Anyway, the body founded to provide impartial fiscal analysis incompetently revealed the government's plans before the Chancellor could tell the House of Commons. The chairman of the ABR, Richard Hughes, should clearly do the right thing and resign. It's an indefensible mistake for which somebody ought to take responsibility, and the buck should surely stop with him. It's worth remembering that uncontrolled economic announcements have real effects on markets, on currency values and on interest rates. So today we saw in glorious technicolor that the people responsible for managing the nation's finances, the party that promised fiscal competence and sensible policies, could not even manage the release of its own budget. It's a government of leaks, internal fighting, public blunders and high taxation. A government for the skivers against the strivers. It's ruining the nation's economy. As ever, let me know what you think. Email at mailmog@gbnews.com. I'm joined now by my panel, the Reform MP for Runcorn and Helsby, Sarah Pochin, and the political consultant and former Labour candidate, Kevin Craig. Kevin, in what way could this budget have been a budget for growth?
Strong foundations, Jacob. Secure future. Okay, viewers and listeners.
Okay,
it's
nice
all
sound
in,
bites.
It's all in there. What a day! Hundreds of thousands of children brought out of poverty. Commitments to bring energy bills down by £150 or £300. Economic growth better than forecast. Not flatlining. And bingo tax. Removing the bingo tax up and down the country so that bingo halls where people play a great game can get more investment. Business rate changes on our high streets. Okay. What a great budget.
Okay, Kevin's brilliant. He's doing a valiant effort at spin.
He is.
And the best he can come up with is a cut in the bingo tax.
Well, quite. And the point is, Kevin, that for growth, we have to support business. You mentioned business there, but let's face it, businesses have been hit by the increase in the living wage and the minimum wage, which was quoted today in the budget. It's also already been hit by the national insurance contributions. And, of course, we've got the dreaded and dreadful workers' rights bill coming in too, potentially, unless the Labour government backtrack on that. But the point is the environment for business growth is just not there. Businesses are being penalised. They're not hiring. We know that the youth, for example, the youth employment market has gone down, has contracted by 15% since this government has been in power. So this government is actually pricing our children, our teenagers, our young adults out of jobs. That does not create growth. Growth is about a jobs market that's prospering.
And Kevin, let's get on to Andy Haldane's criticism of the process. Because if chancellors leak and briefings are given that tax changes may happen, this affects behaviour even if they don't happen. That, for instance, it was rumoured there would be an exit tax for non-doms. Therefore, non-doms make sure they leave before the 26th of November. The leaking has been very undesirable. Can we at least agree on that?
Hold that thought, I will. I just do have to say to Sarah, the remarks about business. There was a lot in this budget today for business. People like me who founded multi-million-pound businesses, there's going to be more encouragement to list those business on the stock exchange in London. There's going to be change to the business rates. And it's stability. So there's a totally different characterisation that I would say in response to Sarah.
Well, there's an increase in business rates for some companies, and there's a reduction in the rate at which you can write off capital investment. So that's a bad thing for business, but do come to the leaks.
That's just process. I'm not interested, and they're not leaks. Basically, someone in the OBR pressed the wrong button.
No, not that one, but the other ones. The discussions. We are going to have a rise in income tax. We're not. The briefings that are clearly government.
Well, we don't know. We don't know who did those, and they happen before every budget. And I'm honestly, I know you can keep asking me, but honestly, to use our time tonight, I'm really interested in what's in here. Wage rises for people of this country, more wage rises in 10 months and in 10 years. Money in pockets.
More money for the public sector, less money for the people who pay for the public sector. There's no public sector money other than that comes from private businesses.
No, I know that. We're all capitalists here, but hundreds of thousands of kids are going to have a better chance. They shouldn't be punished for bad parental decisions.
Paid for by fiscal drag that means that poorly off people who are working are subsidising people who are feckless.
Well, we all subsidise those at the low end of society, but what the government's trying to do is not punish the kids and save us money over time by bringing them out of poverty. But listen, we're not out of the woods yet. I do, of course, humbly accept we are not where we want to be yet, but we're getting there.
I think Kevin's purposely overlooking your actual original question, which was about the leaks. The leaks are very, very dangerous in a time like now where we have such high borrowing that the markets, the bond markets, gilt markets, are very jittery, waiting for this budget. This government has been testing some of its policies with the markets for weeks ahead of this budget coming to fruition. And then today already, with the leak, we saw the 10-year gilt market drop by 7 base points, and then it stabilised. But the point is, the markets are important. These leaks are very, very dangerous.
No, we know they are.
And the government is playing with fire with these bond markets at the moment. But you know, coming back to your point about putting more money in people's pockets. Look, you can say on the one hand you're going to take away the two-child benefit cap, and yes, of course,
one of yours? Was that one of your policies?
Our policy is only to do it for those parents that are in work. And that is a critical difference because your policy today, Kevin, is available to people that aren't working. So you go back to the days of you can have, endless children and the state will pay. But not only that, it's also there for foreign nationals. And our policy is absolutely that the welfare state is only for British citizens.
Which seems perfectly fair. Then what is happening here is that we are spending money we haven't got. So the welfare budget is going up. Taxation is going to be at record levels, but still spending is higher than income. We're living beyond our means, and this budget does nothing to tackle that.
Well, the markets have broadly reacted with approval for today. We haven't. But 3 years ago, when you and former colleagues tried to do this, the economy overnight,
interest rates on the long bonds are now much higher than they were then.
But there's no market crash. There's no market crash.
That spike was nothing compared with where Rachel Reeves has taken interest rates, and unemployment is up, and she's taken inflation up as well.
Well, interest rates,
and her decisions.
Jacob, interest rates under the Labour government, mortgages are coming
set
down
independently by the Bank of England.
But we create the climate with stability.
If only that were true.
But I think we're missing the biggest point here is we now have the highest tax burden in our history through fiscal drag, which I think everybody understands is basically you can go out and you can be working round the clock, 3 jobs some people in my constituency, are taking, and yet because of all that hard-earned money, they will be dragged into paying more tax. That is a stealth way of raising tax, and not being honest about it. You see, I would say that you have broken your manifesto commitments.
Okay, all right, we're going to have to move on, but there's one simple fact to remember. That is, if expenditure is 45% of GDP and income is 38% of GDP, ultimately you go bust. Anyway, we've got some wisdom teeth coming up in this statement, but it's not as wisdom teeth. If you are affected by today's budget, only wisdom teeth are impacted. There's a QR code where you can find out and use a calculator, and you can see it on the screen. That'll be jolly fun for you. You'll be ruined like the rest of us, I'm sorry to say. Anyway, thank you to my panel in a moment.
We have to keep standing up for farming until there are changes.
But we, the people, are the power, aren't we? If we don't stand up now, we're not going to have open house chance.
Britain's farmers are under attack, returning to the streets of Westminster to warn that Labour's inheritance tax plans could push family farms to destitution. Will His Majesty's government's clash with Britain's farmers never end?
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Martin Daubney, weekdays from 3 p.m.
Has had a £9,000 contract cancelled after he spent his summer putting up England and Union Jack flags around his hometown. So far, so patriotic. But the council didn't agree. Bill Crotty made headlines after putting up St George's and Union Jack flags on the A1198 near the village of Basingbourne in Cambridgeshire, near the town of Royston. However, not long afterwards, he received an email from his local council telling him his services will not longer be required. So he's been cancelled over a council getting into a flap over some flags. Well, I'm joined in the studio by the man himself, Bill Crotty. Bill, welcome to the show.
Hey,
a pleasure to have your company. I saw your flags at the time. Magnificent.
Thank you.
Resplendent. Flapping all over the area. You're a successful tree surgeon, and you had a council contract. They saw your flags and they gave you the chop.
Yeah, that's right. I advertised on, I appeared on regional news programmes.
Yeah.
And then a few weeks later, I got a text just telling me that the job had been pulled. So I had a conversation with the chairman, and he just said, "I'm sorry, Billy." He said, "My hands are tied." To be honest, the chairman's a decent man. and he just said, I just couldn't do anything about it. It was out of my hands. So
we can see some of the flags that you put up there, Billy. Tell us what inspired you to put them up in the first place. I mean, it looks magnificent. And I think, as you said, 99.9% of people have absolutely no problem with them whatsoever.
Yeah, absolutely.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Well, welcome back. I'm still Jacob Rees-Mogg, and we were talking about the shambolic budget, and the mail-mogs have come in. Marcus says, Labour doing what Labour does, taking people's money and crashing the economy. When will people learn? And William says, be unemployed, have no ambition, procreate without limit. That is who this budget rewards. Yes, with 6 children, I'm wondering whether I'd be better off on the dole. If you don't see me tomorrow, that may be why. Kelly says, socialism believes it's right that people who work for what they have must be forced to give it to those who are too lazy to do so. So today, Britain's farmers, the people who produce our food and keep the nation running, returned to Westminster to demonstrate against Labour's damaging changes to death duties, which could put family farms out of business and consign the nation's food production to state ownership. As the Chancellor delivered her socialist economic death sentence to the House of Commons, police officers stopped around 20 vehicles, apparently because of fears of disrupting the local traffic, which they then proceeded to do themselves by closing off the main roads. Will the government's war on farmers ever end? Well, I'm joined now by 7th-generation farmer Niall Holman and my panel, Sarah Pachin and Kevin Craig. And Niall, thank you very much for coming in.
No worries.
You were on the protest.
I was.
And farmers were only told late last night that the tractors couldn't come.
Yes. I mean, my decision to come today, I was somewhat in two minds about it, but once they'd banned it, effectively, I felt I should. There was no... I didn't myself come in a tractor. I wish I'd had the foresight to. But so many did. They set off at 1 in the morning, 2 in the morning from all over the country to come down with no official organisation because the official protest was rug pulled from under us, I'm afraid.
And that seems very unfair because it takes time to organise protests. You'd worked with the police to tell them what you were doing.
All completely permitted, everything legal.
Now, do you think if you'd said you were farmers for Palestine, they'd have let you bring your tractors? Because it seems to me that these left-wing protests seem to go ahead willy-nilly and they seem to ignore the law. Farmers who are broadly law-abiding, the police say, well, you'll block the traffic. And then I noticed a lot of police road closed signs as they were blocking the traffic.
No, I don't think that. I think they have been fair with us in the past, the police. We've had tractors in Whitehall before. I think this time with the budget, somebody last minute decided that this was either embarrassing or awkward for the government or noisy, and they...
So do you think they were lent on by the government?
It's not for me to assume that. I have no idea. It was local residents, I believe, had concerns about...
I'm a local resident. I live as close to the Houses of Parliament as you can get.
You should have written to them.
You should have come to me. You would have been very welcome to park outside my house. Anyway, come to the point. Why is this going to affect you? How will you and your family be affected?
I would like to say hundreds still came in tractors, and you may have seen them today, although they couldn't get to Whitehall, and it was very impressive. So thanks to all of them who... how are my family going to be affected? I don't want to say I'm lucky because that's awful, but my grandmother died last year. She owned the farm. It's normal in farming families, or it has been. For a long time, we've had exemption. So we expect to be able to pass it on at an old age. You know, most people don't own the farm until they're in their 50s. So my grandmother owned the entire farm. If she died next year, we would be looking at £500,000 tax bill. We have a small family farm. We're not rich people, but because of the value of land is crazy and development and other prospects that we're not going to take up with farmers. We're holding on to our land forever, but we have this crazy large tax bill that is 10 years profit for us. That's before, not even profit, before being paid. It's an unpayable amount of money.
10 years before paying you and your parents to run the farm. So there is no money coming out of the farm at all.
Yeah, I mean, luckily we're not going to be in this position, but so many are. So the government said at the time last year, if you remember, that this would only affect a small number of farms. And the NFU said it could affect up to 40% or something. Both are sort of true in the sense that most people will be lucky. They will have succession planning that will work, people will die in the right order. But for those farms that don't, it's not the richest farms. It's the 10% of farms that their son died before their father who inherited the farm, or it's a tax on the unfortunate, the unlucky, and nobody knows who it's going to hit. It could affect most actual farms of economic size.
And it's a tax on bad luck. And as I understand it, you've gone back into farming, that you went to university, you were thinking of other careers, but you feel this strong draw to the land as something you want to do.
It's something I've always had and didn't appreciate until I left it, and I've now always known I'm going to come back and do that. But young people in farming, it's becoming increasingly difficult. It's really, I mean, so many, the average age of a farmer is 65 for a reason. It's because so many farmers' sons and daughters, I mean, it's a lot of daughters now, and they're not coming back into it because there's no attraction. It's an industry on its knees and brought there largely by the government. Like, farming all over the world gets support from governments, and ours has completely abandoned us, and there's no dialogue either way.
Kevin, let me bring you in, because this affects farms and businesses.
Yeah.
And it seems to me that if you take the profit out of business for 10 years, there is no ability for those businesses to invest or to employ new people. And that, therefore, this is very sad for the families, very hard for the families, but also has a terrible economic consequence.
It does, and I think Niall is very articulate with his case tonight. There's a couple of things. You can't say there's a government war on farmers, because that's just not true. What I do accept is there remains, and it bothers me, a high level of concern amongst some farming families about the impact of these reforms, which were intended only to deal with people using land as an asset without contributing to growing food and the vital work that farmers do. So I'm hoping that still we can get to a place where the government can assuage these concerns. Nobody, if you love this country, if you love our agriculture, would want this to happen. But farming, Jacob, and I'd say also, Niall, it wasn't these measures that tipped it into crisis. If you love agriculture, as we all do, and you look at the economics involved and the profit margins for farming, they've been in dire straits for several years now, badly hurt, I might add, by Brexit.
Well, you always want to come back to Brexit.
I don't.
Could I come back on that?
Yeah, of course.
I personally wouldn't say there's a deliberate war on farming.
Yeah.
It's feeling like that because we're frozen out. They're not having conversations with us.
Yeah.
And I agree entirely with trying to... There has been a loophole and people have exploited it.
Yeah.
What they've done is use a sledgehammer to crack a nut. They've completely not understood. They've not talked to us. They're affecting so many family farms. There's, like, honestly, it really easily... you could fix this problem. And you could even make more money and not upset people who actually want to hold on to their land and keep farming. Tax farm land when it's sold. Tax farms, when land goes for development, the owners of it get tens of millions. Yeah. Everyone's happy to be taxed when they get a windfall of tens of millions. Tax them at 40% development tax. There's loads of ways they could get, like, it's...
Sarah, what would reform do to help the farmers? You're helping anyone who was arrested today, I understand it.
Well, today I couldn't believe that people were being arrested. And there were actually some quite funny stories. I think a policewoman got a farmer out of his tractor and was concerned that he might have stolen it and coming on a jolly to London. I mean, I've never heard anything so ridiculous.
Criminal strategy.
And you know, I mean, let's not start talking, and we're not here to talk about the police on our streets, but, you know, it is a worry that they're doing that sort of thing. But coming back to the farmers, one of the things that concerns me is I live in a very rural area. I've always felt that the Labour government has not understood the rural community, whether it's about farming or whether it's about field sports or whatever it might be. But the point here is twofold. I'd like to make 2 points. Firstly, farming is not an easy profession. I hear lots of stories about mental health issues with farmers. It can be very lonely. You can be contracting through the night. You know, my sons have done sort of part-time work with farmers, and it's a very, very lonely existence. And not only that, this government has added to those concerns and worries with this actual inheritance tax. Now, a reform government has made it very clear, we get into power, that goes.
Right. Well, thank you very much to Niall and to my panel. Just a passing thought. Farmers very often get up very early in the morning, and they're paying more tax for people who don't get up in the morning at all. Anyway, in a moment.
I am introducing the high value council tax surcharge in England for properties worth more than £2 million.
The Chancellor's tax raid continues in the form of a surcharge on homes worth over £2 million. With concerns, evaluation disputes and press on landlords, I'll be joined by one of Britain's foremost property experts to learn how much damage capital taxation can do.
Dinner under the stars tonight?
That reminds me of our travel insurance.
You mean all clear skies?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
Sunny skies for much of Spain on Thursday, not particularly warm, however. More wet weather to come for parts of Italy and some warm winds blowing across the Greek islands. Reasonably warm in the Canary Islands with a chance of 1 or 2 showers. Fine and sunny, as I said, over most of Spain, but it is on the cool side here. Cold winds bringing plenty of showers to Sardinia and Sicily. Some heavy rain heading to Athens, but the Greek islands further east staying dry and sunny. Santorini, though, seeing showers this weekend.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
Good evening. Welcome to your latest GB News weather update brought to you from the Met Office. A frost-free night to come, but it will remain overcast and drizzly throughout the next few days. The winds will also start to pick up. That's because of this area of low pressure out in the Atlantic. Ahead of that, a series of weather front will bring thicker cloud and some spells of wet weather, and that rain will push into southeastern areas through this evening. It will be relatively light, but it's going to turn quite damp wherever you are. We'll continue to see further pulses of rain moving in from the west. This could turn heavy across parts of Scotland as well as northwestern England, but it's, as I said, it's going to be a much milder night tonight. An early minimum across the southeast, temperatures closer to double digits to start the day here. Now looking further north and west, this is where the winds will start to pick up throughout Thursday. So temperatures around 11 or 12 degrees across the Western Isles and the Highlands, but a brisk southerly wind will make it feel a little bit chillier than that. And there's going to be a lot of cloud around, some wet weather too, particularly over high ground, western facing hills in particular. The high ground of Wales also seeing some drizzly outbreaks of rain through Thursday. Southeastern areas should remain largely dry through the day, but there's going to be very little in the way of sunshine, and it is going to be a breezy day. In fact, quite a windy day across western coast, particularly northwestern areas of Scotland. Now there will be some sunshine poking out by the end of the day across Northern Ireland and the far northwest of Scotland, so we'll feel a little bit better here, but here is where the strongest winds are, and there could be some blustery showers too. And we do have a wind warning in force through Thursday night into Friday lunchtime. Gusts in excess of 75 miles per hour are possible across Western Isles on Friday morning. And we'll see some heavy pulses of rain across parts of Wales into southeastern areas. That rain could linger into the weekend, but there is some uncertainty on that. But wherever you are, it is expected to get colder once again throughout the weekend. Bye-bye.
Bold.
They are under no illusion.
Ray.
Are you a human trafficker?
Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get this on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What I'm going to do now, they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie's tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Very good evening. A brief interruption to Jacob's programme while we take you live to scenes in Washington, D.C., where that major security incident has been unfolding. Just steps from the White House after we now know multiple National Guard soldiers have been shot in the centre of the city. Police say 3 people have been taken to hospital after gunfire erupted right beside a building that is part of the White House complex where senior staff work. US President Donald Trump has just in the last few moments posted a statement about that shooting, saying, and I quote, "The animal that shot the two National Guardsmen, with both being critically wounded and now in two separate hospitals, is also severely wounded." Donald Trump there confirming that the suspect is critically wounded in addition to those two National Guardsmen shot and now in hospital. Donald Trump continues, regardless, the suspect will pay, he says, a very steep price. God bless our great National Guard, he continues, and all of our military and law enforcement. Well, the White House has been placed into lockdown, confirming it is aware and actively monitoring the situation, with DC police confirming that one suspect has now been arrested. We will keep, of course, across all the latest developments coming to us from America, but for now, let's hand you back to Westminster.
Tune into GB News Radio wherever you are, online, on DAB digital radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
In another attack on private property from the Chancellor, Rachel Reeves has announced a new council tax surcharge targeting properties worth over £2 million. The annual levy will start at £2,500 and reach £7,500 for homes valued at £5 million or more, affecting an estimated 140,000 properties. Here is the Chancellor's announcement earlier today.
I am introducing the High Value Council Tax Surcharge in England, an annual £2,500 charge for properties worth more than £2 million, rising to £7,500 for properties worth more than £5 million. This will be collected alongside council tax, levied on owners, and we will consult on options for support or deferral.
The Treasury defends the tax rate, saying it's a means of tackling wealth inequality, but concerns about valuation disputes, rising costs for pensioners and pressures on second homeowners and the landlords at the front of homeowners' minds. Capital taxation is a terrible means of generating revenue and will only make Britain's wealth exodus worse. So what do industry experts make of this? I'm actually delighted to be joined now by the estate agent and founder of OnTheMarket.com, Trevor Abrahamson, and, of course, my panel, Sarah Pochin and Kevin Craig. Thank you very much for joining me.
Pleasure.
What do you and the property market think of this? Is this going to have an effect? Is it going to stultify the market? Are you going to see people leaving the country because of this?
Well, 16,500 so-called millionaires have already left and have left there a vacuum where they previously existed. They were the wealth of the nation and the weather makers. And unfortunately, the government missed a very simple trick as to how to keep them, because they should have charged them, for instance, £250,000 per annum and kept all their wealth in the country and kept their external wealth outside of the UK tax net. They should have done that. The country would have been better off. We would have earned billions by doing so. Instead, everyone loses, apart from the people that left. But actually, in terms of the mansion tax, which should really be called a home tax because £2 million doesn't buy you a mansion in London, the problem was that as confidence arrives by foot and leaves by horse, all this, the leaking of various ideas, we call them more floaters than a sewerage farm because... you know, all these different variations of tax, etc., were very frightening. And of course, expectation could be worse than reality. So what's happened is we've now got reality. This is driven, of course, mansion tax is driven by politics of envy, naturally. We wouldn't have minded, as a supporter of the industry, wouldn't have minded actually council tax bans at the higher end being revised. We think that's perfectly sensible and laudable. However, this is a mansion tax which actually will raise buttons in terms of the Exchequer's revenue. You'll only get the money in 2028, what you will get of it. They say 400 million. I'd like to see them get this. There'll be pushback from house owners, particularly around you. There'll be very few properties at 2 million and 50,000, and 5 million and 50,000, most of them be bunched up just before the threshold. This is the problem with slab-sided methods of judging these matters. So in 2028, it may be, you could say, thankfully, a new administration that will get the money.
So it may never happen, but you've got the issue of the effect it had on the property market in the months when this was being gossiped about. When
Nothing took place.
Nothing. It's just been frozen.
Absolutely frozen.
And what effect does that have more broadly on the economy? Obviously on estate agents, but on builders, decorators.
White goods, brown goods, on retail spending. It's immense. But unfortunately, clearly the Chancellor is learning on the job. I mean, you know, the shambolic episode today of leaking, I mean, that is just unprecedented.
It wasn't a leak, it was a mistake.
That was a mistake?
Yeah.
OK, but nevertheless...
And who are you to say she's learning on the job? You're an estate agent expert. That's so patronising.
Well, I think that's pretty rude to an elector.
I'm sorry.
Voters are allowed to say this. They don't have to suck up to politicians.
No, they don't.
I'm not alone in my views.
Let Trevor continue. So it has a broader effect because of the gossip around it, an effect on business. And you're also making the point that in London, £2 million doesn't necessarily buy you that much.
Well, the average property of £2 million is probably a semi-detached house in Teddington, a 3-bedroom. Most of the cabinet have homes over £2 million.
And what's going to happen with some of the social housing in Westminster, which is really nice Peabody housing? Are those going to be valued at £2 million? Some of them maybe.
Well, all I can tell you is the district valuer who have this unenviable task to actually value these properties. Don't forget that they'll try and do it by desktop, and they won't know the condition of the property, and the condition of the property can change the value by 20 or 30%.
All right. Well, Trevor, sorry, not Trevor, Kevin, you want to get a word in edgeways?
Well, I do, and do you know, it's factually incorrect that over half the cabinet have homes worth over £2 million, and you just said that on live television. It's not true.
Well, will the Prime Minister pay it on number 10 Downing Street? Because 10 Downing Street is definitely worth over £2 million.
I've no idea, Jacob, but in
the Chancellor, or what about those living in Admiralty Arch or in Carlton House Terrace or Chequers or Chevening? Are they going to pay that, or are they going to be exempt?
Well, they might do, but the fact is, this is a relatively a measure that affects so few people, and most listeners and viewers will be listening and saying,
houses. That's going to be quite a lot for the cabinet.
I'm talking about the reform, which is long overdue, of there being more revenue raised from property, and there's consensus around that. And the 66 million people in our country, well, there won't be much sympathy for a relatively small charge. There won't be.
So it's the politics of envy.
It is absolutely the politics of envy. This is true socialism.
No one's envious. I know, Sarah, but no one's envious.
This is true socialism at its worst. What no one has talked about is the fact that 1% of the wealthy in this country pay 30% of the tax revenue. Now, they are leaving in their droves, as we've discussed, and I totally agree with that. That is fact. They are leaving this country. And the point is that if that 1% leave, the more that leave, then the more of the hard-working people in this country, like my constituents, have to pick up that 30% of tax that the wealthy are no longer paying because they've left.
With respect, are they leaving?
We've got to move on.
Yes, they are. Where's the evidence?
We've got to move. Just walk around some of the restaurants, the clubs in London, the museums, and you will see that these places are 30% full. 70% of some of these places have gone.
All right, we've got to move on, but there are elderly people who live in houses that have gone up in value. But I think we've just discovered that the Prime Minister may have a £15,000 tax bill for Downing Street and Chequers. Couldn't happen to a nicer man. Anyway, in a moment.
Doesn't own it.
6, 7. This younger generation.
The Prime Minister may have earned himself a detention slip this week during a visit to a school. Sir Keir Starmer joined pupils in the viral 6-7 gesture. Is it time politicians stop trying to be down with the kids? Plus...
You don't need it to be Christmas to know when you're sitting next to a turkey.
We'll gobble up this story. Donald Trump gave a presidential pardon to 2 turkeys at the White House yesterday. But what made these particular poultries special.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country. There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor. Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I ever got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There, you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Well, the Prime Minister may have got himself put into tension this week during a visit to Welland Academy in Peterborough. Sir Keir Starmer joined in with pupils in the viral 6-7 gesture.
Oh, it's not on the same
6-7.
6-7.
Yeah.
You know children get into trouble for saying that in school.
Oh, do they?
The meme born from a rapper who I'm sure you all know well, Skrilla's track Doot Doot, is the latest craze amongst Generation Z and younger. My son Sixtus agreed to give a demonstration.
6-7. This younger generation.
But Alfred does not approve. So should the Prime Minister lose house points for the blunder? Well, my panel are with me. Sarah, do you go around saying 6-7, or do you prefer to say skibbity, which I think preceded it?
I have to admit, I had to Google the whole thing. So if I'd have been on a school visit, I'm afraid I would have been a bit out of my depth with
You'd have been at
6-7.
6s and 7s.
I would have been, yes.
That was what I first thought. It was to do with livery companies and being at 6s and 7s. do you say 6-7 to your staff if they say something to you you don't really understand?
But, you know, I could listen to you talk street all day. Do you know that? On a long budget day, there's something very soothing about you jiving.
I'm not trying to understand what you're saying.
Yeah, there is.
I think it was quite fun, the Prime Minister doing this, and for once I'm actually going to go into bat for him. I think Prime Ministers doing this show a human side. It's fun, it gets along with the children, and it was even better that the headmistress...
You got told off.
I know, isn't that wonderful?
Yeah, and he took it as well, as he should have done. He took it on the chin.
Personally, I think it was the funniest and the most animated I've ever seen the Prime Minister. Yeah. I think he absolutely should give up his day job and go into some kind of comedy thing, because, I mean, he was brilliant.
He did it well, and it's fun to see politicians being human, and they're always given PR advice to appear to be very prime ministerial. But actually, this is done in favours.
Yeah, and you know, you guys might disagree, but I think we need much more of Keir Starmer and why he's in the job and what his motivations are and what he's like as a real person, because at the moment we don't get enough of that, and leading the nation is not just about policy and the technical stuff. People want to hear more from you, they want to see you feel it, and I just think that this is a good example of him showing he's quite a normal bloke.
Well, actually, for once, I completely agree with you. I think we want to see that of politicians generally. And actually, your leader, Nigel, is extremely good at this. People feel they know him and relate to him.
And you go out campaigning with Nigel, you go knocking on doors with Nigel. It's like a circus, because people literally come out of their houses to have selfies with him, youngsters as well. And it's something I certainly didn't ever experience in a former life. But with Nigel, yeah, I mean, it's like I say, it's like a festival when he's in a street. People come out of their houses to meet him. And he just has this way of connecting with people, on every level, at every age group as well. Like I said, the youngsters that come out and want selfies with him is extraordinary.
But you've got to be a bit careful, haven't you? Because some politicians, Theresa May springs to mind, these types of things haven't gone quite so well. So it's a balance.
Yeah, it is a balance, and sometimes they try and connect, and they talk about fields of wheat, and they look slightly out of touch. But I thought the Prime Minister, in a week where the Labour government's delivered such an incredible budget, was looking very natural.
The one good thing he did was 6-7. That about sums it all up for the government.
No, well, he was in schools talking about breakfast clubs and what we're doing for kids at the sharp end of society.
Do you think we should encourage him to be in the country a bit more? That might be a help. Anyway,
fair point.
We're going to move on to the United States, where there are always stories. Thank you, first of all, very much to my panel. Donald Trump, the President of the United States, has repardoned 2 Thanksgiving turkeys, saying Joe Biden's original pardon was signed with an auto pen, which you may remember he did with some of the people he genuinely pardoned, and therefore illegitimate. President Trump insisted Peach and Blossom were saved just in the nick of time, as in the stuff that goes into the stuffing, before pardoning this year's birds, Gobble and Waddle. It's the sort of spectacle that makes people like Donald Trump. It's fun, it appeals to them. It's even better than saying 6-7, I think, or Skibbity, which is the alternative. But the story seems to be completely stuffed. Wouldn't happen, I think, in Somerset. Anyway, Patrick, you're going to be talking about turkeys today, or talking turkey, as I think the saying goes.
Yeah, by my wonderful live studio audience, Jacob. Yes, hello, everybody. Thank you very, very much to everyone who has made the journey. Heck of a lot on tonight. It's a budget special. I can't wait to find out what real people actually make of Rachel Reeves' budget. Is it the worst budget in history? We've got all that and much, much more coming your way in just a few minutes' time. So watch this space. All right. Come on, guys. Cheers.
Warm and cosy, with a chance of zero visibility. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good evening. Welcome to your latest GB News weather update, brought to you from the Met Office. A frost-free night to come, but it will remain overcast and drizzly throughout the next few days. The winds will also start to pick up. That's because of this area of low pressure out in the Atlantic. Ahead of that, a series of weather front will bring thicker cloud and some spells of wet weather, and that rain will push into southeastern areas through this evening. It will be relatively light, but it's going to turn quite damp wherever you are. We'll continue to see further pulses of rain moving in from the west. This could turn heavy across parts of Scotland as well as northwestern England, but as I said, it's going to be a much milder night tonight. An early minimum across the southeast, temperatures closer to double digits to start the day here. Now, looking further north and west, this is where the winds will start to pick up throughout Thursday. So temperatures around 11 or 12 degrees across the Western Isles and the Highlands, but a brisk southerly wind will make it